Chief Robert Donovan walks into Judge Caprio's courtroom with the kind of confidence that comes from 30 years of people stepping aside when they see him coming, and the first thing you notice is not his pressed uniform with its gleaming badge and 4 gold stars, not the way his leather belt creaks with the weight of authority, but the look in his eyes, a look that says he has never lost a fight and does not plan to start today. He is 52 years old, barrel-chested, with silver hair cut military short, and hands that rest naturally near his duty belt, even though he is not supposed to be carrying in a courtroom. Everything about him screams law enforcement, from his polished boots to the subtle bulge of a concealed backup weapon that courthouse security somehow missed. And when he takes his seat at the defendant's table, he does not sit like someone accused, he sits like someone in charge of the room who just happens to be temporarily inconvenienced. His attorney, Marcus Webb, is one of those lawyers who defends cops exclusively, the kind who has framed photos in his office of himself shaking hands with police chiefs and district attorneys, and even he looks nervous because Chief Donovan is not here for something minor. He is here because federal investigators caught him running a protection racket that spanned 3 counties, taking bribes from drug dealers, tipping off organized crime about raids, and using his department as his personal enforcement arm for everyone willing to pay. But here is what makes this different from every other corruption case. Chief Donovan genuinely believes he did nothing wrong. In his mind, he was not a criminal. He was a pragmatist who understood that policing is messy, that budgets are tight, that sometimes you need to make deals to keep order, and that the badge on his chest gave him the authority to decide which laws mattered and which ones were negotiable. So if you are wondering what happens when someone who has spent 3 decades believing he is above the law finally meets a judge who does not care about his uniform, his connections, or his threats, stay with me, because what you are about to witness is not just a trial. It is the moment when institutional power collides with actual accountability, when a man who built his identity on being untouchable discovers that badges do not work in Judge Caprio's courtroom. The look on Chief Donovan's face when he realizes this is not going to go his way is something you will remember. Like the video if you believe no badge should place anyone above justice. Now let us get into this because it is going to be brutal in all the ways that matter. It is Wednesday morning at 9:00 a.m. in the Providence Municipal Court. The bailiff announces the United States of America versus Robert James Donovan. Chief Donovan stands, adjusts his uniform jacket, and walks to the defendant's table with the measured stride of someone conducting a patrol rather than facing federal charges. His attorney tries to guide him by the elbow, but Donovan shakes him off. He does not need help walking into any room. Judge Caprio enters, and everyone stands except Donovan, who remains seated for an extra 3 seconds before slowly rising, making it clear this courtesy is being granted, not automatically given. It is a small power play, the kind cops use to establish dominance, but Judge Caprio sees it, and his expression does not change at all. He has been a judge long enough to recognize every variety of defiance. "Good morning. Please be seated." Everyone sits. Donovan settles back in his chair with his arms crossed over his chest, his badge catching the fluorescent lights. Judge Caprio looks at the case file, then at Donovan, then back at the file. "Chief Donovan, you are charged with conspiracy to commit racketeering, accepting bribes from criminal organizations, obstruction of justice, and abuse of authority under color of law. These are federal felonies carrying significant prison time. Do you understand the charges?" Donovan leans forward, and when he speaks, his voice has that particular timbre cops develop, the one that makes statements sound like commands. "Your Honor, with all due respect, I think there has been a misunderstanding. I am the Chief of Police for Riverside County. I have served this community for 32 years. I have commendations, awards, recognition from the Governor's office, These charges are the result of a federal witch hunt by people who do not understand how real police work functions. Judge Caprio removes his glasses slowly. Chief Donovan, I asked if you understand the charges. I did not ask for your opinion of them. Yes, Your Honor, I understand what they are claiming. The word claiming carries weight. It is not an admission. It is dismissal. Judge Caprio nods. The federal prosecutor has presented extensive evidence. I want to walk through the allegations systematically. According to the indictment, between 2018 and 2024, you accepted approximately $2 million in bribes from various criminal enterprises in exchange for protection from investigation and prosecution. Is that accurate? Donovan shifts in his seat, uncrosses his arms, and does something surprising. He pulls out his police badge and sets it on the defendant's table where everyone can see it, the gold gleaming against the cheap wood. Your Honor, I wore this badge for 3 decades. I took an oath. I protected people. These allegations are an insult to every officer who ever put their life on the line. Judge Caprio's voice sharpens. Chief Donovan, remove your badge from the table. You are not here as a police officer today. You are here as a defendant. I am always a police officer, Your Honor. That is not something you stop being because some federal agents who never worked a street a day in their lives decide to target you. The courtroom goes very quiet. Marcus Webb, Donovan's attorney, touches his client's arm and whispers urgently. Donovan ignores him. Judge Caprio leans forward. Chief Donovan, I am going to say this once. You will remove your badge from my courtroom table, you will address this court with the respect it deserves, and you will understand that your rank, your service, and your uniform do not grant you special status here. Do I make myself clear? Donovan stares at Judge Caprio for a long moment. It is the kind of stare cops use to make people back down, the kind that says, I remember your face and there will be consequences later. But Judge Caprio does not flinch. Finally, slowly, Donovan picks up his badge and puts it back in his pocket. But his expression makes clear this is not compliance. It is strategic retreat. Thank you, Judge Caprio says. Now let us proceed. The prosecution alleges you accepted bribes from the Moretti crime family, the East Side drug distribution network, and multiple independent dealers. In exchange, you provided advance warning of raids, altered police reports, lost evidence, and directed your officers to target competitors of your paying clients. What do you say to these allegations? I say they are taking legitimate police work and twisting it to look like corruption. Explain that. Donovan sits up straighter, and suddenly you can see the police chief he was, commanding, articulate, certain of his righteousness. Your Honor, I ran the largest police department in this region. My budget was gutted year after year by politicians who wanted to look tough on spending while expecting us to keep crime down. I had officers driving cars with 200,000 miles, wearing bulletproof vests that were expired, working with equipment from the 1990s. Meanwhile, I am supposed to fight sophisticated criminal organizations with resources I do not have. So you decided to take their money? I decided to be practical. The Moretti family was going to operate whether I fought them or not. If I waged war on them, people would die. My officers, civilians, maybe their people too. So instead, I made a deal. They agreed to keep their violence contained, to stay away from schools and residential areas, to maintain order in their territories. In exchange, we did not make them our primary focus. Judge Caprio's expression is unreadable. You are describing a protection racket, Chief Donovan. I am describing pragmatic policing. You want to know the truth? Crime in Riverside went down under my watch. Our solve rate for violent crimes was the highest in the state. Families felt safe in neighborhoods that used to be war zones, and I achieved all of that with half the resources of comparable departments. So yes, I made deals. Yes, I accepted money, but the result was a safer community. The money you accepted, where did it go? Donovan pauses, and for the first time, a flicker of something crosses his face. Not quite shame, but an awareness that his answer will not sound good. Some of it went to department needs that were not budgeted, surveillance equipment, confidential informant payments, officer training that the county would not fund. And the rest? Personal accounts, retirement savings, my daughter's college tuition. So you were not just a pragmatic public servant, you were also enriching yourself. Your Honor, I worked 60-hour weeks for 32 years making a government salary. I put my life on the line every day. The money I received was compensation for doing what needed to be done, for making the hard decisions that politicians and bureaucrats were too afraid to make. Judge Caprio lets this hang in the air. Chief Donovan, I want to show you something. He signals to the prosecutor, who displays surveillance footage on the courtroom screen. It shows Donovan in an unmarked car, meeting with a known drug dealer, accepting an envelope. The date stamp reads March 2023. This is you, accepting $25,000 from Carlos Mendez, who ran a fentanyl distribution operation that killed 16 people in a 6-month period. Explain to me how that made the community safer. Donovan watches the footage, and his jaw tightens. Mendez was a source. That money was not a bribe, it was payment for information. Information you logged where? Some things you cannot put in official reports, Your Honor. Confidential informant relationships require discretion. So there is no record of this alleged informant relationship? Not in writing? No. Convenient. Donovan's voice hardens. Your Honor, you have never worked the streets. You have never had to make split-second decisions with incomplete information while your life is on the line. You sit in this courtroom and judge people based on rules and procedures, but real policing does not work that way. Real policing is messy. It is compromises and calculated risks and sometimes working with bad people to prevent worse things from happening. Judge Caprio's tone does not change. Chief Donovan, I have presided over thousands of cases. I have seen drug dealers try to justify their crimes as entrepreneurship. I have seen embezzlers claim they were just borrowing. I have seen abusers insist they were provoked. And now I am seeing a police chief argue that corruption is pragmatism. The words change, but the fundamental dishonesty is the same. That is not fair. Let me show you something else. Another video plays. This time it is Donovan in his office, talking to 2 of his lieutenants. The audio is crystal clear thanks to a federal wire. I do not care what the evidence says. Moretti's people are off limits unless you clear it with me first. Anybody who forgets that will find themselves directing traffic in the worst part of town. The courtroom can hear Donovan's voice threatening his own officers, instructing them to protect criminals, making it clear that loyalty to him trumps loyalty to the law. When the video ends, Donovan is pale. That audio was obtained illegally. That audio was obtained with a federal warrant signed by a judge who found probable cause for your criminal activity. The prosecutor interjects. It is entirely admissible. Marcus Webb is frantically scribbling notes, but even he looks defeated. There is no way to spin this. Subscribe to Judge Stories if you believe corruption in law enforcement betrays the very oath officers swear to uphold. Judge Caprio turns back to Donovan. Chief, I want to understand something. You have heard the evidence against you. You see yourself on video accepting bribes and ordering your officers to protect criminals. Why are you still insisting this was legitimate police work? Donovan is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice has lost some of its commanding edge. Because if I admit what I did was wrong, then everything I built for 30 years is a lie. Every commendation, every promotion, every speech I gave about integrity and service, all of it becomes meaningless, and I cannot accept that. It is the most honest thing he has said all morning. Chief Donovan, let me ask you something. Do you know what happened to the 16 people who died from the fentanyl Carlos Mendez distributed? I know it is a tragedy. Do you know their names? Donovan does not answer. I have their names right here. Sarah Chen, 19 years old, community college student. Marcus Johnson, 23, father of a 2-year-old daughter. Rebecca Torres, 31, elementary school teacher. Should I continue? Your Honor, those deaths are not my fault. They are directly your fault, Chief Donovan. You took money from the man who distributed the drugs that killed them. You protected him from investigation and prosecution. You allowed him to continue operating because he paid you. Those 16 people died while you were cashing his checks. For the first time, Donovan looks shaken. The certainty that has armored him throughout this proceeding cracks just slightly. I never wanted anyone to die. But they did, and you profited from the same enterprise that killed them. You wore a badge that is supposed to mean protection and service, and you used it to enrich yourself while people died. Donovan's voice drops to barely above a whisper. I was trying to do the best I could with impossible circumstances. No, Judge Caprio says firmly. You were trying to justify your own corruption by blaming your budget, your resources, and the complexity of your job. But the truth is simpler than all of that. You were a police chief who decided the law applied to everyone except you, and people died because of that decision. The judge opens a thick folder. I have testimony here from 14 of your own officers. Men and women who served under you who came forward to report your corruption. Do you know what they all said? Donovan shakes his head. They said you created a culture where questioning your orders meant career suicide. They said you punished officers who wanted to investigate your protected criminals. They said you turned the police department into your personal protection service for whoever could pay. These are your own people, Chief Donovan, the men and women who trusted you, who followed your leadership, and they are all testifying against you. They are trying to save themselves. They are trying to save their profession's integrity. There is a difference. Judge Caprio leans back. Chief Donovan, take out your badge again. Donovan hesitates. Your Honor, take out your badge. Slowly, Donovan removes his badge from his pocket and holds it. What does that badge mean to you? It means I am a police officer. It means I dedicated my life to public service. It means authority. It means the community trusted you with power. It means people saw that badge and believed you would protect them. Is that accurate? Yes, Your Honor. And you betrayed every bit of that trust. You took the authority that badge represents and sold it to criminals. You took the power the community gave you and used it for personal profit. That badge does not represent service anymore, Chief Donovan. It represents the corruption of everything law enforcement is supposed to be. Donovan's hand tightens on the badge. Now I want you to give it to me. The courtroom goes silent. Even the court reporter stops typing. Your Honor, this badge is mine. I earned it. You forfeited it when you decided to become a criminal. Give it to me. Donovan looks at the badge in his hand, the symbol of 3 decades, the thing that defined his identity, the object he thought made him untouchable. His hand is shaking. I cannot. You can and you will. Bailiff, please take Chief Donovan's badge and surrender all law enforcement credentials. The bailiff approaches. Donovan looks at his badge one more time, at the gold shield he has worn for so long it left a permanent impression on every uniform shirt he owned. Then, with a hand that trembles with rage and humiliation, he hands it over. The bailiff takes it to Judge Caprio. The judge holds it up, and in that moment you can see it for what it really is, not a symbol of honor, but evidence of corruption. Robert James Donovan, you are hereby stripped of your law enforcement authority, effective immediately. Your post-certification is revoked. You will never serve as a police officer in any capacity, in any jurisdiction, for the rest of your life. Donovan's face crumbles. Whatever armor he built from his uniform and authority is gone. He's just a man now, a criminal facing consequences. Now let us discuss your sentence. You have been found guilty of conspiracy to commit racketeering, accepting bribes, obstruction of justice, and abuse of authority under color of law. These crimes strike at the heart of public trust. When a police chief becomes a criminal, it damages every honest officer trying to do their job correctly. Donovan's attorney stands. Your Honor, we request leniency based on my client's years of service, his contributions to public safety, and the extraordinary circumstances of his position. Judge Caprio cuts him off. Mr. Webb, your client's years of service are an aggravating factor, not a mitigating one. He had decades to uphold the law, and instead he spent those decades corrupting his department and betraying the public trust. His position made his crimes worse, not better. Sit down. Webb sits. Chief Donovan, or rather Mr. Donovan, since you no longer hold that title, I am sentencing you to 20 years in federal prison without possibility of parole for at least 12 years. Donovan's face goes white. Additionally, you will forfeit all assets purchased with bribe money, including your home, your vehicles, and your retirement accounts. The total forfeiture is approximately $1.8 million. Your Honor, that will leave my family with nothing. Your criminal activity left 16 families with dead children. Your complaint about money rings hollow. Judge Caprio continues. You will also be prohibited from ever working in law enforcement, private security, or any position of public trust. Your post-certification is permanently revoked. Your pension is forfeited under federal law due to your corruption conviction. Donovan starts to argue, then seems to collapse inward. The fight goes out of him all at once. Your Honor, please. You wanted to use your badge in my courtroom, Mr. Donovan. You thought it would protect you, give you special treatment, allow you to intimidate your way out of consequences. But that badge meant nothing here except as evidence of how far you fell. You did not just break the law, you corrupted every officer who served under you, you betrayed every citizen who trusted you, and you sold out your oath for money. Judge Caprio picks up Donovan's badge again. This will be entered into evidence at your sentencing hearing, and then it will be destroyed, not transferred to another officer, not retired with honor, destroyed, because this badge is tainted by your corruption, and no one should ever wear it again. Donovan's voice breaks completely. I dedicated my life to that badge. No, Mr. Donovan. You dedicated your life to the power that badge gave you, and when you realized you could sell that power, you did, repeatedly, for years, while people died. The judge signals to federal marshals. Mr. Donovan, you will be remanded to federal custody immediately to begin serving your sentence. Do you have anything to say before you are taken into custody? Donovan stands, stripped of his badge, stripped of his authority, stripped of the identity he built over 32 years. He looks at Judge Caprio with something that might be understanding or might be hatred. You are right, he says quietly. About all of it, I became exactly what I used to arrest, and I convinced myself it was justified the whole time. It is not quite an apology, but it is an admission. I hope that realization brings you some measure of peace, Mr. Donovan, because the next 12 to 20 years are going to give you a lot of time to think about it. The marshals approach. Donovan looks at them, fellow law enforcement, but now they are here for him. He does not resist as they put handcuffs on his wrists, the same wrists that once held the power to arrest others. As they lead him away, he glances back one time at the defendant's table where his badge used to sit. Then he is gone, led through the same door he once walked through with confidence, now walking through it as prisoner number 284563. Judge Caprio sits quietly for a moment after Donovan is removed. Then he addresses the courtroom. Corruption in law enforcement is not just a crime, it is a betrayal. When a police officer becomes a criminal, it undermines every good officer trying to serve honorably. When a police chief protects drug dealers for money, it mocks every family who trusted their badge meant safety. Mr. Donovan came into this courtroom thinking his badge would protect him. He left in handcuffs because justice does not recognize badges, it recognizes truth. The courtroom empties slowly. The prosecutor packs up files full of evidence that will now gather dust in storage. Donovan's attorney walks out with slumped shoulders, already calculating which clients he needs to call to explain he lost. And somewhere in federal holding, Robert Donovan sits in an orange jumpsuit where his uniform used to be, trying to understand how he went from chief to inmate in a single morning. Within days, the story spreads through every law enforcement agency in the region. Chief stripped of badge in courtroom. Federal judge destroys corrupt officer's career. 20 years for the chief who sold his oath. Officers who served under Donovan express relief, anger, vindication. Some talk about the culture of fear he created. Others talk about the investigations he killed, the evidence he made disappear, the criminals he protected. The full scope of his corruption takes months to unravel, and every new revelation makes his 20-year sentence look more justified. His wife files for divorce. His daughter changes her last name. His son, who was training to be a police officer himself, quits the academy. The family Donovan thought he was protecting with his dirty money is destroyed by the revelation of where that money came from. 3 months into his sentence, Donovan writes a letter to Judge Caprio. It arrives at the courthouse in a plain envelope with a federal prison return address. The judge does not have to read it, but he does. It is 6 pages long, handwritten, with crossed-out sections and ink that sometimes smudges where water dripped on the paper. Donovan writes about the moment he first took a bribe 15 years before his arrest. $5,000 from a bar owner who was selling cocaine out of his establishment. Donovan tells himself it was one time that the money would go to his department, that he would still investigate real crimes. But that first compromise made the second easier, and the second made the third inevitable, until he was taking money from anyone willing to pay and convincing himself he was still serving justice. He writes about the officers who trusted him and how he betrayed them. He writes about his family and what his crimes did to them. He writes about lying to himself for so long that he forgot what the truth looked like. And then, in the last paragraph, he writes something that might be the most honest thing he has ever said. Your Honor, when you made me hand over my badge in that courtroom, I hated you. I thought you were humiliating me, destroying me, taking away the only thing that made me matter. But now, sitting here in this cell where I will spend the next 20 years, I understand what you were really doing. You were taking away the lie I had been living, the false identity I hid behind. That badge stopped meaning service a long time ago. It meant power, control, the ability to operate outside the rules. And when you took it from me, you did not destroy me. You revealed what I had already become, a criminal who happened to wear a uniform. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not expect sympathy. But I want you to know that I finally understand what you said. I betrayed every officer who served honorably. I betrayed every citizen who trusted that badge meant protection. And I betrayed myself so completely that I forgot what I was supposed to be. I hope the next chief they appoint remembers what I forgot. That the badge is not power, it is responsibility. That authority is not a weapon, it is a trust. And that the moment you start believing the rules do not apply to you is the moment you stop being a police officer and start being a criminal. Thank you for showing me that, even though it destroyed everything I thought I was. I will spend the rest of my life trying to become someone who deserves to understand that lesson." Judge Caprio reads the letter twice. Then he files it in the case folder and moves on to the next case on his docket. Because this is what justice looks like, not just punishment, but the possibility, however slim, that someone might understand why they were punished. Robert Donovan walked into Judge Caprio's courtroom wearing a badge and 30 years of authority, expecting his position to shield him from accountability. He left in handcuffs, stripped of his badge, his career, his freedom, and the identity he built on corruption. His case became a reminder that no badge, no matter how shiny, places anyone above the law. If you believe every police officer should be held to the highest standards precisely because we trust them with so much power, like this video. If you want to see more stories where Judge Caprio refuses to be intimidated by position or authority, subscribe to my channel, Justice Talks, and check out the other videos on my channel. See you in the next video. Stay healthy.